TikTok might be banned soon, but for right now it's still around with lots of trends taking the app by storm. I've been wanting to discuss a lot of these trends for a while, but first, the United States is once again announcing the potential ban of TikTok. And this time it seems much more severe than it ever has before. On March 13th, 2024, the House of Representatives approved a bill that would force the owners of TikTok, which is a Chinese company called ByteDance, to divest or sell TikTok, and if they fail to do so, the app will eventually be banned.
This is not an attempt to ban TikTok. It's an attempt to make TikTok better. Tic-tac-toe. A winner.
I don't know if this will make you feel better if you don't want TikTok gone, but it does have to go through another round of votes in the Senate. However, the president did say that if the bill does end up on his desk, he will pass a bill that could lead to the ban of TikTok.
Do you still support banning TikTok? Would you sign that bill?
If they pass it, I'll sign it.
I've asked you the other day what you thought about this. I've posted a poll that received 11,000 votes. That is so many of you. Thank you for participating in that. 33% of you believe that TikTok should be banned, while an overwhelming 67% of you believe that it should not be banned. Many of you who stated you believe it should be banned have mentioned that it's due to TikTok's negative effect on society. And while I can understand the concern, since it definitely has affected many people, we are at a point where a majority of social media apps provide very similar short-form video content. So if the app does get banned, which I'm not sure it will as of right now, I don't think that society is necessarily going to change much. I personally don't believe that the app should be banned though, especially with that fact in mind. But I do think more safety measures should be put into place. Now, the majority of this video goes over TikTok trends that I've been wanting to discuss with you for quite a while, but I felt that it was completely necessary to bring this up beforehand since the threat of a ban has been looming over TikTok for years at this point, and I have discussed it in the past. I felt like it was an important update to give you before we continue this video. But the main focus of today's video involves more concerning TikTok trends. And if TikTok goes away, then this will just happen on another platform. Over the years, aesthetics have become more and more popular through apps like TikTok, but also places like Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. TikTok does seem to be the main place where you will see discussion of this type of stuff, which involves fast-paced trends and aesthetics, as well as the lack of individuality and identity people seem to have since TikTok and short-form content has grown popular. But as a disclaimer, I do feel like it's important to let you know that with everything I discuss, it has nothing to do with my opinions on TikTok getting banned. But like I mentioned, this has reminded me of some things on TikTok that I've wanted to discuss. There are so many niches and communities. It is a widely used platform. We're gonna look under the microscope at some particular things that have grown popular on the app. But before we continue, I'd love to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, AdamandEve.com. Adam and Eve is a store for anybody who is 18 or older. They sell a huge variety of adult items and clothing. My favorite thing about Adam and Eve is the fact that 20% of their profits goes towards fighting against the spread of HIV around the world. I think it's absolutely amazing when companies do what they can to help with a great cause and do what they can to make the world a better place. Also, AdamandEve.com has a fantastic 24/7 customer support system, and if for any reason you do not love any of the items that you've ordered, Adam and Eve offers 90-day no-hassle returns. Go to adamandeve.com and use code MIMI for 50% off of one item and free shipping to the United States and Canada. Some exclusions do apply. Thank you so much to Adam and Eve for sponsoring yet another video here on the channel, and with that being said, let's get back into today's topic. So for those of you who do not know what aesthetics are on TikTok, they're essentially trends but are hyper-specific to one type of style, and when people adhere to aesthetics, it essentially overtakes their entire personality. I'm not saying everyone, by the way, but the people who are highly invested in this. And when I think back on days in high school, I think to myself, you know, there were different types of groupings that people would be in or would call themselves, such as the jocks, the preps, goth kids, emo and scene kids, but aesthetics have been a constant obsession on TikTok for quite a while now. You have things like old money and clean girl aesthetic, and I believe there was also a clean girl goth aesthetic. So basically everything that the clean girl aesthetic did, but was made to be goth, which doesn't make sense to me, which eventually led into Mob Wife Winter. I kid you not. And some of the most concerning aspects of this is how fast everything seems to change, which leads into things like micro trends, which are basically trends that have a very short lifespan, sometimes being as short as 1 to 2 weeks before people move on to the next thing. I can't imagine the average person consuming this type of content being able to sustain a lifestyle where trends are changing so rapidly. You would have to be changing your entire wardrobe every few weeks just to keep up with everything. I don't know how many of you might or might not know this, but that sounds extraordinarily expensive. Let's revisit those aesthetics that I've mentioned just a few moments ago. There have been many trends recently, such as old money, coastal granddaughter, coconut girl, vanilla girl, pretty much any type of dessert and or fruit type of girl, coquette girl, the resurgence of Y2K, which that one actually stuck around for quite a while. But there are so many different aesthetics, and the thing is that many of them seem so similar to each other that you can barely tell some of them apart. Yet somehow it still makes some feel as though they need to abandon whatever trend they were currently taking part in to adapt to this brand new lifestyle and then rinse and repeat every few weeks. I feel like this is partly due to TikTok and other media's short form content's fast-paced nature, catering to the shortening attention spans of its users, while also catering to younger and more impressionable audiences who are much more likely to go through phases in short periods of time to find out where they fit in. But constantly changing trends being shoved in their face every few weeks seems like it would make it much harder to fit in anywhere. With so much pressure to adapt to constantly changing styles every few weeks, it will make it harder for some to recognize their own sense of self. One of the biggest aesthetics that has stuck around for the longest has been the clean girl aesthetic. For months, many have been ditching heavy makeup and replacing it with skincare and adapting to this healthy lifestyle, which, to be fair, none of this is really a bad thing. If you want to try a new skincare routine or try to attain a healthier eating and workout habit, that's great. But this also ties into other issues that I've discussed in a previous video with the massive consumption of expensive skincare, most of which the average person cannot afford, but it's somehow making kids go feral at places like Sephora. If you'd like to know more about that, I'll leave the link to my previous video in the description below. Anyway, I'm not a hater to any of these aesthetics I've named in particular. I am one to appreciate different fashion styles, but I worry for those who are losing their identities due to rapid changes in these trends. Instead of worrying about what's in and out of style, just wear what you want to wear. Maybe instead of gutting your entire closet to replace all of the clothes that you bought last week to fit a new trend this week, just pick out a few pieces to make one outfit dedicated to that style so you're not overbuying tons of clothing. Or even better, find clothes that serve multiple purposes so that they can be restyled instead of recycled. Then, if you want to be a coconut or cherry girl one day and then a clean girl the next, you don't have to shop for a whole new wardrobe. It's important to emphasize how unattainable this type of lifestyle is to the average person. When it comes to influencers on TikTok or even places like Facebook, Pinterest, and Instagram, so many of them are following these trends as part of their job to stay popular within their own algorithm. It's also important to note that many of them likely receive a lot of their clothing, skincare, makeup, and accessories for free from brands to review, but it's not always disclosed as an advertisement, affiliate, or PR package. So it makes some viewers feel pressured to keep up with these trends when they may not even be able to afford it. I'm actually surprised with how popular these trends get due to how the economy is right now. How many people are actually out there going out and wiping their wardrobe every few weeks to adapt to these constantly changing trends? Like I said, that would get outrageously expensive. One month you might like this one new thing that came out, and then the following month you might not care about it at all. This has happened way before TikTok even started. This was from when I was a kid. This is from seeing family members who are younger than me grow up and seeing their interests change within short spans of time. It happens. But what happens when you take somebody whose interests are constantly changing so fast and you're giving them a phone to distract them, you have all of these trends happening so quickly, micro trends, whatever you want to call them, aesthetics, they're changing so rapidly because a large majority of the people, in my opinion, who are religiously following these trends are likely in the younger demographic, as we've gone over previously with the Stanley Cups and the rise of children raiding Sephora stores. This is reaching a younger and younger demographic, and the younger demographics don't hold on to interest as long as an adult would hold on interest to. But the thing is, TikTok doesn't tell you what age demographic is following these trends. You just see influencers pushing these trends onto a younger demographic, a demographic that is very impressionable, which is where this comes into play with a business aspect. This creates a very vicious cycle. So you start with brands that want to push something out, so they push it onto influencers who push it onto you, the consumer, and brands want to push out as much stuff as they possibly can, so it's like rinse and repeat. Something will be trendy for a short period of time, the next thing's popping up, they want to jump on it, especially when it comes to companies, particularly clothing brands that sell a lot of cheap clothing. They're able to mass produce this clothing very quickly, sell it, and then start on to the next thing almost immediately, and this could happen within a very short time span, which is what you're seeing reflected onto TikTok. So after the clean girl trend stood at the top of all of these other aesthetics for such a long time, a new trend popped up in the beginning of 2024. I found this one to be quite worrying compared to all of the other trends we just mentioned due to its nature. This eventually led into mob wife winter.
Activate the mob wife energy and you are ready to go for mob wife winter.
Clean girl is out, mob wife era is in, okay?
TikTok has spoken, the clean girl aesthetic is out, and the mob wife aesthetic is in.
The mob wife aesthetic took the months of January and February by storm, with many people wearing lots of black fur coats, having red nails, having your hair clipped back, wearing sunglasses and lots of gold, and even wearing Italian designers.
You'll need to start with an outfit that's comprised of entirely black garments. If you can add some leather in there, even better. If you look like you're going to a funeral, you know you're doing it right.
Now I have to be honest, when I first heard about this trend, I immediately laughed and thought it was ridiculous, but then I took 2 seconds to realize that Hollywood has been glamorizing the mob wife lifestyle for years, and the timing of this trend seems extremely interesting.
What the fuck am I doing here?
This aesthetic conveniently went viral right after the 25th anniversary of the hit TV show Sopranos, which, if you don't know, is a show about Tony Soprano, a mob boss, and his family, and also his family. Full disclosure, from when this show aired from start to finish, I was so little that I was not allowed to watch it when it was on TV. But with the announcement of the 25th anniversary, I finally got around to starting the show as an adult, and I'm only in the middle of the second season, so bear with me here. Anyway, a prominent character in this show was Carmela Soprano, Tony Soprano's wife, who lived a very luxurious lifestyle when it came to materials. But I wouldn't say her life was very desirable outside of materialism. Despite this beautiful looking home and these beautiful looking clothes, a lot of quote unquote mob wives portrayed in Hollywood always seem to go through abuse of some kind, and at the very least either end up losing their husbands and their lifestyle to the law, or from their husbands getting whacked. There was also another character from the show. Tony's nephew Christopher had a girlfriend named Adriana. This character was played by Drea Di Matteo. After the mob wife aesthetic started going viral, she made a video and was also interviewed by TMZ, and while she stated that she was excited about wearing animal prints for the look, she had some interesting comments regarding the trend.
The only issue I have with it all is maybe we call it, mob queen or gangster goddess. I mean, mob wife.
It's notable for another topic later on in this video that trends seem to be reducing women to just wives as their biggest achievement. More importantly, however, she also states this.
I mean, I was a mob girlfriend, and the main accessory to my look was a black eye.
As previously mentioned, a lot of mob wives portrayed in different forms of media seemed to commonly be physically abused. And to be completely fair, it's not just mob wives or mob girlfriends that end up getting physically harmed in this form of media, but the trend is called mob wife, which is why we're focusing on that. Another example of this is from the movie The Godfather. Spoiler alert, in the first Godfather movie, it starts out with this beautiful Italian wedding. The bride seems so happy, she's beautiful, beautiful. There's so many people there celebrating, and it just seems like the most perfect day ever. But later on in the movie, her husband gets violent towards her. In the same movie, another woman who marries the main character, Michael Corleone in Italy, blows the fuck up when she starts a car one day. Despite this, Hollywood has always glamorized the lifestyle of fictional mobsters, even real mobsters too. A big inspiration for some media is the life of John Gotti.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Most known as the Teflon Don, but also known as the Dapper Don for his luxurious lifestyle. He's often mentioned in movies and shows, including The Office.
What's the guy's last name? It is Grotti.
Oh no.
Oh boy, here we go. What?
John Gotti, you idiot.
And even certain songs. There was even a reality TV show called Mob Wives. Personally, I haven't watched much of that show, but what I want to say is that by no means am I saying I hate shows like The Sopranos or The Godfather. I think both pieces of media are very well done and have inspired other forms of media up to the current day. It's just that the lifestyle portrayed for mob wives is a lot darker when you peer behind materialistic items. And due to that, it's something that I personally find silly to desire. But like I said, Hollywood does such a good job at glamorizing this lifestyle that people either don't notice or forget these darker parts of it. Which is why I can't put too much blame onto the individual TikTokers partaking in this trend or whoever started this trend, other than naming it mob wife aesthetic. The other thing I wanted to touch up on really quick is the fact that most people who do consume this type of media, even though the media does seem to glamorize this lifestyle, kind of already know that it's glamorized. They know that it's a Hollywood production. They're old enough to understand that they are movies and shows. But the thing is, a lot of these movies and TV shows came out long before half the people involved in this trend were even zygotes. And while it's obviously possible to see a movie that came out before you were born, the audience on TikTok might be a little bit too young to even know what a mob is. In fact, on a lot of these videos, there were people asking, what is a mob wife? And I speculate that due to age, that would be the same demographic that is the most impressionable and most misguided when it comes to this situation specifically. This segues into the last trend that I've been seeing lately. So this one is less of an aesthetic and more of a particular grouping of people on TikTok, which are called trad wives. Before I even get into this topic, I want to make it abundantly clear. Being a stay-at-home mom is a lot of hard work. Taking care of the kids, cleaning the house, cooking dinner, all of that is work. You don't get paid for it, but it's still hard work. I don't want anybody seeing this segment of my video assuming that I think that stay-at-home moms are lazy or anything like that, because I think the exact opposite. The frustration doesn't come from staying at home. The frustration comes from these accounts making it seem like everybody can do this when it just simply isn't an option for some people due to how bad economics are and how much people are struggling right now. There are so many parents out there that cannot afford to stay home. There are so many people out there that don't even get maternity leave in the United States. And when they see this content that makes it look so easy to just stay at home and take care of the kids and live this abundant life. And the other aspect that people don't like is some of this content, not all of it and not every creator, but some of this content and some of the creators seem to push this idea on to others, including people who don't want this lifestyle. When looking up trad wives on TikTok, it was hard to find these accounts at first, but then eventually falling down this rabbit hole, there is this whole subgenre of homemakers who abide by traditional old-fashioned gender roles, which again, if you want to do that for yourself, that is fine, but some of these creators pressure others, including their own family members and their audience, into living this lifestyle as well. So there are quite a few accounts on TikTok that are currently going viral for this way of living where they are living as housewives, which there's nothing inherently wrong with being a housewife if that's what you want, but the way that they go about it is making it look sustainable, where in today's day and age, it's pretty much impossible, at least in the United States, for the average TikTok user watching this to be living a lifestyle where they just stay home all day, cook, clean, have kids and make everything to eat from scratch. There's videos of this one person who gets up early and wants to make her children a grilled cheese, so she starts from scratch by making the bread and then making the cheese. And listen, I get it to an extent. A lot of people want to make their own bread because one, it seems like it's cheaper, and two, you're not getting all those preservatives that maybe certain breads have in the grocery store. The same with cheese. You make it yourself, you know everything that goes into it. I get that. However, how realistic is it for the average American citizen to wake up every morning and make every single meal that they eat from scratch? Most people have a lifestyle that barely allows them the time to make a healthy dinner. A lot of people are relying on places like fast food, or at the very least, processed meals that they could just throw in the microwave really fast, or very quick instant meals that don't take a lot of prep time because they're working 2 to 3 jobs and they're exhausted by the time they get home and they don't have that much time to prepare something like this. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you, making grilled cheese from scratch sounds like something really cool to do. It sounds like something I would want to try at some point, but I'm not gonna be doing that every single day along with every other meal I make. If I want to have cheese, I'm gonna go to the grocery store and buy cheese that's already made, because nobody has time for that. That's not a sustainable thing to do. It's unfortunate because I feel like it's probably way healthier if you think about it, but it's just not an option for most people. And that's the thing. What pisses a lot of people off is the fact that these accounts make this look so easy and make this look like it's a sustainable way to live when most people can't do this all the time. Like she said in the TikTok, she spent 2 hours making this.
I got started by making my bread. This is a really simple no-knead recipe. You put all of your dry and wet ingredients into a bowl, give it a mix, and let it rise for 2 hours.
And this is only one of several different recipes she's made from scratch. There's another account. This one is a little bit more family vloggery in my opinion. A lot of these families that post on TikTok with this lifestyle actually come from wealthy backgrounds. Both of these accounts are very well off financially. They are able to live this lifestyle because of the amount of money that they have and the success that they have and had before they started posting these TikToks. There are more of these creators as well. Another person received tons of backlash for posting several TikToks explaining how she wants to raise her daughter to be financially dependent on a man so that she could be a wife to him and a mother to his future children. Again, if that's what you want to do with life, awesome. But to instill this idea that this is what your children or anybody watching your videos should be doing or has to do, that's an entirely different situation. You're basically putting expectations onto others to live a lifestyle that they might, one, not want to have, but two, might not be able to have. Also, I find it extremely startling that there are parents out there teaching their children to depend on a man to take care of them when, one, there's no guarantee that they will have a man in their life when they're older. Number two, this gives them a very bad relationship with independence, gives them really bad expectations early on in childhood. The scariest part about this is the amount of people who have come forward after this went viral, explaining how in their early 20s they did exactly this. They married men, became financially dependent on them, bore their children, and years later the husband divorces them and leaves them behind as single mothers to take care of said children on their own.
One of the comments on the post that I stitched kind of encapsulated why, and they said that you never see trad wives in their 40s on TikTok celebrating being a trad wife or stay-at-home mom or whatever. That's because you oftentimes find these women who are in their late 30s, early 40s, still with school-age children, in an office like mine trying to figure out what options they have now that their marriage is over. That's when they discover they're going to have to fight for every little bit of financial support that they get, and it's not going to be nearly what they were living off of before.
I used to be a trad wife, and now I'm a single mom. That I was only good at being a wife and a mom because that's what I was shown growing up. I let my husband at the time make all the decisions. I basically had no voice. I don't even know if I would have been able to speak up. Because after we were divorced, when the kids went to go live with him, because my kids went to go live with him and I paid him child support, I would say I had no say-so on how my kids were raised. I learned that very quickly, that my voice and my opinions on my girls did not matter, and that I should just fall in line with anything he says to do.
I'm not saying that this is something that is guaranteed to happen. I'm not saying that every person is like this or every relationship or marriage is like this. I'm just saying there are so many people who have made TikToks about this. It is, in my opinion, foolish to raise any child, giving them the expectations to be dependent on anybody but themselves when they become an adult. What you're actually doing is eliminating their independence and control. On top of there being creators out there who are pressuring not only their audience but their own children to live this type of lifestyle, and consumers of this content who either A, feel bad for not being able to sustainably live like this, or B, not wanting to live like this but feeling pressured in some way too, there are now some people out there who are seeking out trad wife material for their relationships. They're basically seeking somebody to be their traditional wife without realizing that in order to actually obtain that, you're going to have to provide for both you and another person and potentially a family later down the line. And again, for the average person, especially if you're living in the United States where the middle class is getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, that's not the most sustainable or realistic thing to expect. Despite this, however, some people are really motivated to obtain a trad wife, so much so that they're willing to get divorced from their current wife to start life new with a traditional wife instead. In December of 2023, the New York Post made an article, "TikTok ruined my husband of 12 years. Now he wants a trad wife and we're getting divorced." TikTok has been accused of ruining attention spans, but now the app is under fire for destroying marriages too. Listen, I don't think it's TikTok destroying marriages. I think it's stupid people. Because like I said earlier on, if TikTok goes away, these people are going to disperse throughout all different forms of social media. The app might go away, but the people behind it will not. A distraught wife has taken to Reddit to reveal that the social media app completely changed her husband's character, causing the end of the 12-year union. The anonymous woman, aged 37, said that she and her hubby were seemingly happy together before he became hooked on TikTok's trad wife videos. In her Reddit post, the divorcing woman explained that her husband happened upon trad wife videos earlier this year. "We were not a traditional couple," she explained. "We both work, we both do chores, and childcare. He didn't complain about it. But around March of this year, he started acting weird. He complained how I looked. He complained about the food. He complained about me working long hours. I work the same hours as he does. Throughout our marriage, he never had any complaints about the food I cook. I dress up in a more comfortable attire when I'm in my house. He never had a problem with that, ever." The devastated wife learned that her spouse had started becoming obsessed with one particular trad wife TikToker whom she did not name. Her content looked made up and not realistic to me because it was 100% made for the male audience, she declared. "I told him this was all an act that she puts on for the world to see. This is not reality. Plus, nobody cleans their houses wearing pretty dresses. The dresses will get dirty." However, the husband was undeterred. He purportedly began comparing his wife to a friend who was a stay-at-home mom. He subsequently urged her to quit her career to be at home with their daughters on a full-time basis. He knew I wasn't the type of woman who wanted to be a homemaker. He had no problem with it. I tried to tell him to stop watching this type of content. It really hurts me that he would idolize another woman rather than his wife. Shockingly, she claimed her husband became verbally abusive for the first time in their marriage and insisted that she became a submissive wife. The marriage continued to break down, with the final straw recently coming when the wife discovered that her husband had been talking to another woman online. He wasn't even ashamed or felt remorse. He told me he deserves better. Honestly, if this is all a real post because this is a report off of an anonymous Reddit post, this lady is better off divorced, and he deserves what he deserves. Honestly, if anybody deserves better, it's the woman in this situation for putting up with this shit. I want to take a breath and take a step back and look at all of this again from a wider perspective. All of these trends, from the clean girl aesthetic to the mob wife aesthetic to the trad wife aesthetic. Even if TikTok does go away, I have a feeling that these types of things will continue on other forms of social media. We live in such a fast-paced society now where people's attention spans are significantly shortened when it comes to these aesthetics or these expectations like the trad wife culture. It is perfectly acceptable to be who you are as a person. You do not have to rely on what trends are popular right now. You do not have to constantly be recycling your closet and getting new clothing to keep up with certain trends. You are allowed to be yourself, and you do not need to feel like you are constantly trying to keep up with the current state of fashion and overwhelming yourself with being part of the latest aesthetic or the latest trend. This type of lifestyle is so unrealistic, and it's not good for the environment, it's not good for your mental health, it's not good for your wallet. It just seems like such an overwhelming thing to constantly keep up with. And also, if you're in a relationship or a marriage or any type of situationship with a person who wants you to give up your entire life and ambitions to do something like becoming a trad wife, if you are not okay with doing that, please don't. Please leave that person. You deserve to have people in your life that love and care about you for who you are, not people who want to change you into something that you're not. And again, this is nothing against anybody who is a stay-at-home wife, a stay-at-home mom, or even anybody who falls into this trad wife aesthetic. If that is the lifestyle you want, that's totally fine, as long as it is what you want. But with that, I ask that you please do not pressure anybody else into that lifestyle. Please don't make anybody feel bad for being unable to live this type of lifestyle. Thank you so much if you've made it all the way to the end of this video, and thank you so much to everybody supporting me over on Patreon, and thank you so much to anybody who has given me a super thanks. With that being said, I will see you in the next video where we talk about another TikTok situation, but is much darker. And this one, it's a situation that has been a problem for a while, but has once again been brought up for another reason recently, and it's something that needs to be stopped. But I'll get into that later. And if you see me wearing the same shirt in that video, it's because I probably filmed that video right after this.